If you have ever tried to like forcefully delete a bad thought from your mind,
Yeah.
you have actually, well, you've mathematically guaranteed that your brain is going to duplicate it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a complete inversion of, how we're taught to handle our internal lives.
Right.
We treat our minds like hard drives. We think if we just isolate a corrupted file like an anxiety or a resentment or just a really persistent negative memory, we can just drag it to the trash and hit empty.
Yeah, just clear the cache and move on.
Exactly. But the cognitive architecture we actually possess, it only knows how to accumulate.
Welcome to today's deep dive, everyone. That is our core mission today. We are going to fundamentally dismantle and rebuild how you approach negative thoughts.
And it really is a total teardown of what we assume about the brain.
Totally. Our source material today is a highly focused breakdown from a talk by Sadhguru titled, How to Remove Negative Thoughts. And the answer to that title's question, paradoxically, is that you just can't.
Which sounds discouraging at first, right?
Right. I mean, if you've spent years in therapy or read mountains of self-improvement books trying to figure out how to stop being anxious or, stop being angry, understanding why that effort is mechanically impossible is a massive paradigm shift.
It really explains the sheer exhaustion so many people feel. When you apply a mechanical solution that is totally incompatible with the biological machine you're operating, you don't fix the machine.
You just strip the gears.
Exactly. You just break it down further.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start right there with the actual math of the mind. The core assertion here is that the human mind only operates on addition and multiplication.
Yes. Addition and multiplication only.
There is no subtraction and there is no division. But, I mean, if we consider the human brain as the most sophisticated supercomputer on the planet,
Right.
which it is, right? It invented all the other supercomputers.
Yeah, quite literally.
So why wouldn't it have a basic delete function? I mean, even the most primitive operating system from the 1980s could erase a line of code. Why would evolution leave out something so incredibly useful?
What's fascinating here is that to understand that, we really have to look at what the brain was actually optimized to do over millions of years of evolution.
Okay, so like survival stuff.
First and foremost, yes. The mind is a gathering machine. Its primary function is survival, and survival depends entirely on the accumulation of data.
Right, because you need to know what's dangerous.
Exactly. A hunter-gatherer who forgets where the tiger lives or forgets which berries are poisonous, they don't survive to pass on their genes.
They get eaten or poisoned.
Right. So from the moment you are born, your neural networks are designed to absorb, to categorize, and to retain.
So holding on to information, even like really unpleasant information, is a feature, not a bug.
Precisely. Think about if you touch a hot stove. The intense pain and the negative emotion associated with it are instantly burned into your memory.
Oh yeah, you never do that twice.
Because the brain flags that as critical survival data. If you had a delete button and just casually wiped that negative memory because, it made you feel bad.
You burns your hand again the next day.
Exactly. The biological imperative is to gather and hold. A machine designed purely for accumulation cannot suddenly run a protocol for deliberate, conscious deletion.
Okay, but let's say I'm not dealing with a hot stove. Like I'm dealing with a really cringeworthy thing I said at a dinner party 5 years ago.
We all have those.
Right. It has zero survival value. None. I just want it gone. What actually happens mechanically when I try to force that thought out of my head?
Well, when you try to forcefully remove a thought, you aren't deleting the original neural pathway. You're actually generating a brand new thought that says, I must remove that previous thought.
Oh, wow. So mathematically, you don't have zero thoughts.
No, you now have two. You have the memory of the dinner party, and you have the active meta thought about trying to destroy the memory of the dinner party.
That is addition. I started with one problem. Now I have two problems.
Right. And it rarely stops there, does it? Because the thought isn't going away, you naturally get frustrated.
Yeah, you feel like you're failing at controlling your own brain.
Exactly. You feel inadequate. So now you've added an emotional charge, frustration, shame, anxiety to the existing thoughts. You've just moved from addition to multiplication.
So it snowballs.
It's a massive snowball. The original thought triggers the meta thought, which triggers the emotional response, which then makes the original thought feel more urgent and significant. It creates this compounding feedback loop.
This perfectly describes the internal texture of a panic attack.
Oh,
Or like an anxiety spiral.
it really does.
It never feels like things are being taken away. It always feels like things are rapidly piling up until the system just crashes entirely.
Yeah, it's overwhelming accumulation.
There was a classic 10-second experiment from the source material that perfectly illustrates this, and I kind of want to walk through it right now.
Let's do it. It's very revealing.
The instruction is incredibly simple. For you listening, try this with us. For the next 10 seconds, try not to think of a monkey.
Right. Just forcefully monitor your mind and ensure absolutely no monkeys appear.
Yep, no monkeys. Starting now. Block out any image of a monkey.
It is functionally impossible for anyone to do.
Oh my God, instantly, my brain is a zoo. I've got chimpanzees, I've got Curious George, I've got monkeys eating bananas, monkeys in little space
The
suits.
spacesuit ones are always my favorite.
Right. But the harder I push against the idea, the more vivid the monkeys become. Why does the brain do that? Why does the instruction to not do something act as a summon?
It really comes down to how working memory operates. I mean, to follow the instruction, do not think of a monkey, your brain has to engage in a dual process.
Okay, dual process. What are the two parts?
First, it needs an operating process to search for thoughts that are not a monkey. So it's looking for cars, trees, whatever.
Got it.
But simultaneously, it needs a monitoring process to check and ensure that the operating process is actually working.
Wait, hold on. A monitoring process?
Yes. To know if you are successfully avoiding the thought of a monkey, a part of your brain has to constantly ask, am I thinking about a monkey right now?
Oh, no.
Exactly. In order to ask that question, it has to hold the concept of a monkey in your active working memory as the reference point.
So you have to keep the monkey alive in your mind just to check if you've deleted it yet.
You do. You're holding it right there on the desktop.
That is a cruel neurological joke. The very act of checking the trash bin requires pulling the file out of the trash bin and putting it on the screen.
It is. And this highlights the sheer profound exhaustion this causes in our daily lives.
I can imagine.
When people adopt this common mantra of, I will just remove negative thoughts and have positive thoughts, they are engaging in a battle against their own cognitive architecture.
Because they're running that monitoring process all day long.
Precisely. The harder they fight, the more energy they expend keeping the negative thought in their active memory.
Which means whatever you try to actively remove from your mind actually becomes your defining quality.
Yes, that's a great way to put it.
Like, if your entire goal is to not be anxious, your entire life revolves around the concept of anxiety. You wake up and monitor your anxiety. You evaluate your day based on how much anxiety you successfully avoided.
You are tethered to the very thing you hate. You become defined by your opposition to it.
That sounds exhausting.
It physically is. If you spend 8 hours a day managing the avoidance of a thought, say, trying not to think about an ex-partner, or a looming financial problem that is a massive expenditure of metabolic energy.
Just burning calories thinking about not thinking.
Exactly. The brain consumes about 20% of the body's energy under normal conditions. When you're caught in an active suppression loop, running that monitoring process constantly, you're burning fuel at an incredible rate for zero forward progress.
So if the mind only adds and multiplies, attempting to forcefully steer it away from negativity doesn't just fail to solve the problem.
No, it accelerates the chaos.
It fundamentally destabilizes the system. And this brings us to this brilliant analogy from the source material about the mind being a vehicle. But it's a vehicle with a terrifying design flaw.
It really is. The analogy paints a picture of a machine with 3 pedals. But instead of a clutch, a brake, and a gas pedal, all 3 pedals are throttles.
Every single pedal makes the vehicle go faster. There is no brake mechanism whatsoever.
None. In the context of cognition, this means that any interaction with your thoughts, whether you're agreeing with them, fighting them, suppressing them, or analyzing them, applies energy to them.
Any touch is a throttle.
Any touch at all.
Let's say I'm in this vehicle. I see a hazard ahead, like I see a terrifying negative thought approaching. My instinct, naturally, is to slam on the brakes. I stomp my foot down.
But because my mind has no brake pedal.
I've just hit the throttle. The anxiety doesn't stop. It accelerates right toward me. This completely upends centuries of well-meaning advice, doesn't it?
Oh, completely.
We have this long history of moral and religious conditioning, where authorities essentially say, just don't think bad things. Purify your mind.
And as the analysis points out, since that instruction was given, avoiding bad thoughts has become a full-time job for humanity.
It's hilarious, but also kind of tragic.
It is. It highlights a fundamental historical misunderstanding of the human operating system. Telling a human mind not to think a bad thought is like telling the heart not to beat, or the stomach not to digest.
It is asking an organ to cease its primary autonomic function.
Exactly.
But people aren't just sitting there helpless, right? I mean, if you tell someone they can't brake, They will try to steer, or
Yeah.
they will try to turn the radio up really loud so they can't hear the engine.
We use avoidance tactics constantly.
Yeah, the source material mentions chanting, like repeating mantras over and over, just to drown out the negativity.
And in modern terms, this is doom scrolling, binge watching television, working 80-hour weeks.
Right. We build incredibly complex lives just to avoid sitting in silence with our own runaway minds.
Avoidance is a highly effective temporary masking agent, but it is vital to understand the difference between masking noise and turning off the engine.
Okay, say more about that.
When you chant or scroll or distract yourself, the internal machinery is still running. The throttle is still engaged. You've just redirected your conscious attention away from the dashboard.
So it's the equivalent of putting a piece of black tape over the check engine light.
Exactly. And the danger of suppression is the rebound effect. Psychological studies on thought suppression consistently show that when the distraction stops, like when you put the phone down, or when you finally lie down to sleep, the suppressed thoughts return.
And they come back worse, right?
Much worse. They return with a significantly higher frequency and intensity than if you had never tried to suppress them in the first place.
Because the mind is a closed system. The energy of those multiplied thoughts has to go somewhere.
Exactly.
It's like if you hold a beach ball underwater all day. The moment your arms get tired, it doesn't just gently float to the surface. It launches out of the water with explosive force.
That's a perfect way to visualize it. And if you manage to maintain that suppression throughout your waking hours, the energy simply reroutes
Reroutes where?
into your sleep. The mind will process that data during your sleep architecture, infiltrating your dreams. You experience night terrors, fragmented REM sleep, and chronic fatigue.
Just because you wouldn't deal with the monkeys while you were awake.
Because the brain is desperately trying to untangle the multiplied data you refuse to process while conscious.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because I think anyone listening can fundamentally relate to this next part.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Think about a day where you tried to just white-knuckle your way through a bad mood. You woke up feeling a deep sense of dread or anger, and you just gritted your teeth.
You forced a smile.
Right, you forced a smile, you distracted yourself with work, you pushed the feeling down.
Yeah.
By 5:00 p.m., how did you feel? Did the anger gently evaporate?
Probably not.
No. You probably ended up snapping at a coworker over a minor typo or experiencing a massive tension headache.
The frustration here is profound. I mean, we possess this incredible evolutionary tool, the intellect. It's supposed to serve us. It's supposed to navigate the world for us.
But when it becomes a runaway vehicle, ignoring our inputs going to its own destination, it ceases to be a tool.
It becomes a tyrant.
And the damage of that tyrant doesn't stay confined to the psychological realm. The frustration of being trapped in this vehicle eventually bleeds out of the mind and into the body.
Yes. Because we can't break, these runaway negative thoughts fester, they loop, and they mutate into chronic anger, fear, and resentment.
And this is where the conversation shifts from mental discomfort to severe physical consequence.
This is a critical transition from psychology to biology. The framework presented here makes a very specific, stark equation.
Let's hear it.
Generating anger and resentment towards someone else is the equivalent of drinking poison yourself and expecting the other person to die.
Okay, I have to push on this. We throw the word toxic around constantly in modern culture.
We do.
We talk about toxic workplaces, toxic people, toxic mindsets. But usually we're using it as poetry. We just mean bad or unpleasant.
Right, as a metaphor.
But the analysis here is taking this entirely literally. Are we just using a strong metaphor to say that being angry is a waste of time? Or is there a tangible, measurable consequence occurring in the body?
The claim is not poetic at all. It is profoundly biochemical.
Wow.
The text anchors this in physical reality by pointing directly to blood chemistry. It posits that if you experience just 5 minutes of intense anger and then you take a blood sample, the chemical composition of your blood will have demonstrably changed.
After 5 minutes.
Just 5 minutes, you are literally introducing toxic elements into your own bloodstream.
Walk me through the mechanics of that. How does an invisible thought in my head become a physical toxin in my blood?
It all comes down to the body's threat response system. Remember, the brain evolved for physical survival. It is incredibly bad at distinguishing between a physical threat, like a predator attacking you, and a psychological threat.
Like an infuriating email from your boss.
Or the memory of someone who betrayed you.
To the brain, a threat is a threat.
Right. So when your mind gets caught in an addition-multiplication loop of anger, The amygdala sounds the alarm.
The fear center.
Yes. It signals the hypothalamus, which activates the sympathetic nervous system and the adrenal glands. Within seconds, your body is flooded with stress hormones, adrenaline, and cortisol.
Preparing you to fight the tiger or run away.
Yes. Your heart rate spikes, your blood pressure increases, your breathing becomes shallow. But here is where the toxicity comes in.
Okay, where does it get toxic?
Cortisol is designed to be a short-term survival burst. It is not meant to be in your system constantly. When you sit at your desk ruminating on an argument for 20 minutes, you are bathing your internal organs in cortisol.
And what does that actually do to the tissue?
Chronic exposure to cortisol and adrenaline alters endothelial function. That's the lining of your blood vessels.
Oh, wow.
It promotes systemic inflammation, triggering the release of inflammatory cytokines. It suppresses your immune system, disrupts your digestive tract, and accelerates cellular aging.
So when the source material says you are poisoning yourself, it is referring to this exact cascade. You are chemically degrading your own vessel.
Exactly. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it is a tragic irony.
It is staggering to think about. 5 minutes of intense anger alters the blood. Think about how often we casually indulge in anger.
All the time.
Someone cuts you off in traffic, you read a divisive headline, you remember a past slight. We trigger that chemical cascade multiple times a day, every single day.
And we do it under the profound delusion that our anger is a weapon against the person who wronged us.
Yes. We sit alone in a room, seething with resentment towards someone who might be miles away.
Completely unaware of our feelings.
Totally unaware. We generate this intense, burning negativity, believing we are punishing them.
But the biological reality is that we are the only ones taking the damage. The fundamental rule of physical existence is absolute. If I drink poison, I die.
Right. If I drink poison, my enemy does not die.
But emotionally, we live completely inverted to this rule. We manufacture stress hormones, spike our blood pressure, and degrade our immune system, waiting for the other person to suffer the consequences.
It is a catastrophic malfunction of human intelligence.
It really is. I mean, if you ask any rational person, do you want to administer a slow-acting poison to yourself today? The answer is unequivocally no.
Obviously, no.
Yet, because we misunderstand the math of the mind, because we try to hit brakes that don't exist, which multiplies our thoughts, which triggers the threat response, we inadvertently manufacture this poison continuously.
I really want you listening to contextualize this in your own life right now. The next time you are sitting in a frustrating meeting or stuck in a delayed flight and you feel that heat rising in your chest, remember the blood work.
Think of your blood.
Ask yourself in that exact moment, is the temporary ego-driven satisfaction of being righteously angry worth chemically altering my own blood?
It's a powerful question.
Do I want to poison my own organs over a situation I cannot control, using a mental loop I cannot delete?
Recognizing the physiological hazard of negative emotion fundamentally changes the stakes. It forces us into a corner.
It does.
We realize that fighting the mind only accelerates it, and letting the mind run wild literally poisons our bodies. This creates a deep, profound sense of helplessness.
Which is exactly the question that emerges next. What on earth are we supposed to do?
Right.
If we can't delete the thoughts and we can't safely harbor them, what is the mechanism for escape? And this is where the source material introduces a massive architectural shift.
Because the solution isn't to learn how to drive the runaway vehicle better. The solution is to step entirely outside of the vehicle.
Let's talk about how we actually do that. The fundamental mechanism to escape this trap is distancing.
Yes. In the context of this material, it touches upon the essence of a practice known as Isha Kriya.
Isha Kriya, okay.
The word Kriya generally refers to an inward action. It's a process of creating a specific separation between your true identity and your physiological and psychological processes.
Breaking the identification. We spend our entire lives operating under two massive assumptions. I am my body, and I am my mind.
Constantly.
We say things like, I'm anxious or I'm angry. We fuse our identity completely with the transient state of the machine. The radical assertion here is that there is a you that exists completely independently of all that gathered material.
It is the difference between the contents of consciousness and consciousness itself.
Okay, unpack that difference for me.
Your thoughts, your memories, your anxieties, these are all contents. They are data points the machine has gathered. But the space in which those thoughts occur, the pure awareness that observes the thoughts, That is something entirely different.
The best way I've ever found to conceptualize this is the movie theater analogy.
I love this analogy.
Imagine you go to see a brilliantly directed thriller. You are sitting in the dark, staring at the screen. As the tension ramps up in the movie, your physical body reacts.
Your heart rate increases, your palms sweat.
Exactly. You feel genuine fear. In that moment, you are completely identified with the images flickering on the screen.
You have lost the distance between the observer and the observed.
Right. In this analogy, the screen is your physical body and the movie playing on it. The drama, the horror, the chaotic storyline is your mind and your thoughts.
And as long as you are completely sucked into the movie, you suffer along with the characters.
But if you just lean back in your chair for 1 second and look at the illuminated exit sign over the door, the spell is broken.
Instantly.
You suddenly remember, wait, I am sitting in a chair in a quiet room. I am not the screen. I am not the terrifying movie. I am the observer watching the light hit the screen.
The horror movie is still playing loudly, the images are still terrifying, but it no longer has a psychological grip on you.
Because you have reestablished the distance.
Exactly. The mind continues its automated process of addition and multiplication. It continues to project monkeys and anxieties, but you are no longer trapped inside the projection.
And the source provides a really incredibly simple, practical proof of this independence, something that can be verified instantly by anyone. It's the closed-eye proof.
Yes.